All right, let's try not to be totally somber here. Um, that was a rough thing to watch. Um, that is absolutely the definition of getting your teeth kicked in the most demoralizing way. Um, and I can't totally defend Herbert after that one. Still my quarterback, still very few quarterbacks in the league that I would rather have than him. Let's make that totally and abundantly clear. That being said, that was quite possibly the worst game of his career. His first three interception game, and he threw four, 14 for 32, 44% completion percentage. Bad decisions on quite a few of those interceptions, at least two of them, probably three of them. One of them I won't blame on him at all, the pick six, but just absolutely brutal to watch from a Chargers fan perspective. And the Herbert haters are going to win this round. There's not a tremendous amount that I can necessarily justify for that performance. We'll break into other people at fault, but I just want to get that out of the way right away. I'm not absolving Justin Herbert of that loss. He took credit for it too in the post game, as he well should. No surprise there. He's always a leader of this team, but yeah, bad decision forcing the crossbody bomb on the first pick. Bad throw on the Ladd pick. Should Ladd have caught it? In my opinion, yes. But should it have been a much easier catch? Absolutely. Justin Herbert should have hit him square in the chest. And I understand that he was under pressure with offensive lineman getting pushed straight back into him, and so he didn't step all the way into his throw. I understand all that, but it was still a bad throw. He still way high pointed that ball. And yes, it did go through Ladd's hands, but it should have been a much easier ball to catch in the first place. The last pick, the Stingley pick, was a hell of a play by Stingley. But at the same time, Justin Herbert could have put a little bit more touch on that ball. A couple other throws throughout the game, Justin Herbert just didn't have the right touch. And I think that's been a reasonable knock on his game the whole career, is that he's always kind of bulleting it in. And yes, some of that is on the receivers to catch them, but throwing 100 miles an hour to your rack on a short crossing route, I didn't see the reason for that. There was a couple just bad throws and missed throws in there. The Disley interception, the pick six, obviously not his fault at all. No one else was even close to the area besides Will Disley. Put it right on him, and he just let it go right off his hand and into the defender. But yeah, it did happen, and I'll be honest, I do have some concerns about him being able to step it up and go ice cold in the playoff scenario. It would have been done so much for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of other Chargers fans, to see them really come out here and play like they were pissed off. Like they wanted to put that Jags game behind them, and I really thought that that's what we were going to see to some extent. But the two field goals to start and then just dragged from there, that offense looked absolutely brutal, and we looked like a team that choked to some extent. Yeah, the defense, I think, played lights out to start, but they got worn down. They started getting on the field too much. And yeah, it's really heart-wrenching from we've changed the culture of this team all season long perspective to end the season this way. But 11-6, that's still significantly better than almost anybody had us pegged. Chargers fans, quite a few of us had us at 11 wins, but a lot of national media obviously had us as a 6, 7, 8 at most win team. I don't think anybody actually pegged us for 11. I think Coward had us for 10 because he's a huge fan. But, I mean, it's rough, guys, rough. But outside of Justin Herbert, other people also had terrible games, obviously, in a loss like that. First, I'm going to shout out Greg Roman, because I really hope we don't carry him into next year. Just with his offensive scheme, if we don't have a dominant offensive line and dominant run game, it's very clear that his passing attack just isn't going to work. Now, obviously, the weapons are not where we need them to be outside of Ladd, but 4th and 2 call, the whip route to QJ with Stingley on him was a horrible play call. If he was supposed to be the first read and receiver that caught that ball, even worse. I'd have to go back and watch the play to see if it looked like Herbert went through progressions and the first read wasn't open, so then he went to QJ. But that was a terrible play call. Absolutely terrible play call. Abandoned the run too early, in my opinion, and then for some reason continued to try and use play action on obvious passing situations. What are you doing? And then once the back end knew that it was a passing situation, their coverage was holding up. They had no concerns, and they were allowed to put pressure on Herbert, and the offensive line just crumbled. Just absolutely crumbled. Herbert, I think, to some extent, after he started getting that pressure and having some issues and threw some picks, he got the yips. Yeah, I really think Greg Roman's going to stay, and I hate it. I don't want to waste any more years of Herbert's career. I also don't want to keep changing offensive coordinators on him. But what do you say after a performance like that? Obviously, we had a good stretch the last couple of weeks before the end of the regular season, but that doesn't matter now. What matters is what everybody just saw, and every single person across the country who watches football is watching that game, and it was just brutal. Outside of Ladd, we had 45 total receiving yards on 5 catches. 45 on 5 catches outside of Ladd. Embarrassing. 50 yards rushing. You take away 8-yard carry from Gus, 8-yard carry from JK early on in the game, and JK went 8 for 18 and Gus went 6 for 14. So we went 2.2 yards per carry. So imagine Justin Herbert with a running game. Sure would love to imagine it. QJ had 5 targets on the day. Obviously, he was hurt, but still went 0 for 0 with drops. I had so much faith in him. I really did. I was one of the bigger QJ defenders after year 1. Obviously, there's still a chance he turns it around, but at this point, the chances are pretty low. I think he could be a legitimate wide receiver 3 type weapon who gets rotated in and out. He is still a yak threat and things like that, but you need to specialize his role, and he needs to be replaced by somebody who is a more dominant physical receiver. We need that on our team. Think Nico Collins out there today, just watching him play. And I'll get to Ladd here in a little bit, but obviously there's been a lot of discourse. Is Ladd a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2? Look what he did his rookie year. Look what he did his rookie year because he was the only reliable hands on the team who could actually create separation. Now, obviously he can be a wide receiver 1. He can lead this team in receiving yards and touchdowns and all that stuff. But by what I think we need in a wide receiver 1 is the physical aspect of a wide receiver 1, the alpha mentality. Because watching Nico Collins just toss our corners around, just toss Chris and Fulton around all freaking game. I want that for my team. I want that for my offense. And we just don't even have anything close to it. And obviously we could go sign T. Higgins in the offseason or try and draft someone, but it's clearly missing. The offensive line, what was that? Outside of obviously just getting destroyed up the middle on bull rushes, the tackles getting beat in certain situations. My bigger concern was the fact that we just let free rushers come to Herbert, 3 times throughout that game? Twice it was Will Anderson. Just looking like we weren't prepared for the playoffs was embarrassing. Special teams. I love you, Ryan Ficken, but what the heck was happening? We had a blocked kick on Cameron Dicker. Obviously, that was brutal. The blocked punt, we got so lucky on. But that was horrendous. Horrendous that you had the special teams guy calling out. Exactly. Watch him crossing over. Nobody switched on to him. Nobody got coverage on him and just came straight for the ball and blocked the punt. It's just... And it all started with that 3rd and forever that CJ Stroud had at the 1-yard line that turned into a touchdown scoring drive. I know I'm being all somber after I said let's not be all somber, but as a guy who just wants so badly the Chargers to beat the allegations of always going to Charger, and Justin Herbert not being able to play at a high level in the playoffs and everything else. We had such a huge cultural shift this year with Jim Harbaugh, and I feel like so much of that just went out the window, and maybe that's just me being a negative Nancy, but that's just it. I just feel like a win today would have been so huge. But I guess now we're looking at the offseason. Yeah. a lot of work to be done. And I think a lot of that comes down to what do we want our identity to be. Because if we're going to stick with Greg Roman, we have to lean into it super hard, I suppose, and just become the Ravens. I don't see any other way that it works, is you just have to be smash mouth football all the way, completely conform your identity into that. And I mean, like, spend all of our money and top tier draft picks on guard, center, possibly another guard. Need to get a tight end in there somewhere who can do a little bit of both, blocking and receiving, and a running back. We need to invest in running back. I don't want to pay JK. I'm sorry. I loved JK coming into this year. I like him as a person. I like him as a player. But he's injury prone. It happened this year. He shrank in a lot of the bigger moments to me. Now, how much of that happens to fall on the offensive line? Probably a decent amount. But I just don't feel comfortable paying him big money. We still have Gus to be our more physical guy. I wouldn't be mad if we kept JK, but I just don't want to come out here and shell out big money for someone in that situation. But Lad McConkey, let's talk a positive. 9 for 197 and a touchdown. Holy cannoli. He's a stud. We knew that he was a stud. The ability to come back to the ball is absolutely remarkable. Makes it so he's the only one with the opportunity to catch the football unless it goes through his hands because it's too high. Breaking the tackle and showing his speed on that touchdown run was awesome. But yeah, no, it was really the only. Dion Henley, incredible breakout season, continued to ball out all year. That interception would have been really nice in the second quarter. Bummed that he dropped that. Derwin, total resurgence. Bummed that his pick got taken away. That would have been huge. But yeah, would love to keep Khalil Mack in the offseason, give him another year or two just to see what he can do. Bosa, I can't imagine we keep him. What is it, $34 million? I'd have to double check that. Don't quote me on it. But huge cap hit next year with like a $24 to $26 million cap savings if we cut him on his restructured deal. So I have a hard time not believing that this was his last game in powder blue. Yeah, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to see the game end the way that it did. But we're on to the off season now. Time to look at bigger and brighter and better things. Silver lining, we have a chance to get Loveland or Warren now. Not locked in, but we should be around, we're going to be 22, give or take. So got an opportunity to get a legit weapon if that's the route we need to go. But we have a lot of holes to fill still. We did patchwork this team together over the offseason. Can Cam Hart stay healthy? Or is this going to be a Jason Verrett situation? Obviously, we did get Tarheeb still, but Christian Fulton's got to go. He was just getting burned all day long, all season long. I've bitched about it enough times now. Lost in coverage. But we've got to fill holes at corner. We've got to fill holes at edge. We still need severe upgrades on the interior defensive line. That's just the defensive side of the ball. Truly hope that Colson comes around, and so our linebackers are squared away for a number of years, but guard, center, possibly another guard, 2 receivers, tight end, obviously running back. Like, we have spots that need to be filled. We have a long way to go, and that can all be done in an offseason with a really good offseason. So we'll see what Ortiz has under his belt, see where this goes, pick our chins up, and look on to the future. But cheers to a good season, everyone. It was a success. 11 wins and a 5 seed in the first year after being a 5-win team is a successful season. Just an absolutely horrendous way to end the season, but we're Chargers fans. We've been through it before. We'll get through it again, and on to bigger and better things. Cheers, everybody. Bolt up. If you liked this video, please give me a follow on Twitter or X at Erdman Chargers, shown on the graphic here, or subscribe to my YouTube channel at Nature's Calls Pod.